Friday's video twice, so if you try to look at yesterday's video, don't try to look tonight. I have to repost it. If we do a 2x2 determinant,
Multiply, cross multiply.
we're going to cross multiply. We get a 4 and a 6, 4 and 6, and then we subtract them, so we get -2. Everybody remember that? If we have a 3x3, what do? We copy over the first 2 columns, right? EJ, are you paying attention?
Yeah, I pull my stuff out.
We copy over the first 2 columns, and then what? We multiply 0. We multiply 40. And we multiply -3. Now what do I do with those numbers? I add them up. So that would give me a 37. You aren't done. We multiply, and we multiply. And that gives me a 9. Now what do I do with those 2 numbers? Same thing I did with those. I subtract them. So 37 minus 9, and the answer would be 28. Everybody remember that from yesterday? All right, then I want you all to take out a half sheet of paper. Here we go. Got a half sheet of paper. You can do this. All right, do we have out a half sheet of paper?
I'm so sorry for Oh, did you give your other sheet to someone else?
Oh, dude, it was very funny.
This was for Two problems, here they are. Make sure we have copied them correctly. And putting on this board is a little cleaner. Watch your arithmetic. Okay.
Was this taught yesterday?
Yes.
Do I have to take a quiz?
You have to take it sometime.
I think tomorrow morning.
No, I think I have a PLC meeting in the morning. Like at some point you'll have to take it. Not one you can borrow, you'll have to buy it. Does a friend have a pencil you can borrow? No one has a pencil she can borrow? Alright, let's get these 2 problems done. Yesterday I had a cheater.
Oh, no.
And I just gotta say, people, bad enough having cancer. You don't need to pile on with the cheating. So let's keep our beady little eyes on our own paper. Make sure you copied it correctly. Blake, are you done? Okay, turn your paper over. Don't sit there and advertise it to everybody sitting around you. When you're done, put it in the plate up here. Oh, wait. Is this your birthday, Olivia? Have you used your bonus yet? Oh, this is a big day. Here we go. Here we go. What's your question? Couldn't hear it. 3 plus 2? 2 plus 2. Okay, 2 plus 2. Bring your paper up, put it face down in the plate, please. Well, she'll be here in a moment. She doesn't do PLC. Get your note sheets out. We got some learning to do today, and I want to get some review done too. Calories and protein. Okay, people. All paper should be turned in. Let's run through it real quick. Cross multiply. I get a 1 and an 8. What do I do with those two numbers? So I hope you got -7. Raise your hand. All right, you are awesome. All right, now for this one, we need to recopy the first 2 columns. And then we start here, always at the beginning, with the very first number. That's where we start. Right there, we multiply them and we get 8. And then we multiply them and we get 0. And we multiply them and we get -3. Now we total all that up and we get 5. And then we start over. Multiply them. Okay, that's a bigger number. What is that? 36? And then we multiply and get, watch it, what do we get? 0. And then we multiply and get 0. So that total is 36. Now, what do we do with the 5 and the 36? Same thing you did with those two numbers. You subtract them, negative 31. How many got that? Good. Anybody who didn't get that, do you see what you did wrong, or do you understand? Do you have a question? Okay. All right, now we have our note sheets out, and we are now looking at part 4. Part 4 oh, these boards are atrocious. Alright, part 4 is something new. Alright? So just like yesterday, we learned something new. Today we're going to learn something new. But you're going to be fine. It's easy. Today we're going to talk about how to find the inverse of a matrix. The inverse. On the note sheet, you will notice that I said find this. That is the inverse of A. So this is the notation that means find the inverse. So here we go. It's a two-step process. The first step is find the determinant. You already know how to do that, you just took a quiz over it. So step 1, find the determinant. All right, what does that equal? What does the determinant equal? It'll be 5 and negative 2. And then we subtract them, so we get 7. So the inverse starts out as 1 over 7. 1 over the determinant. Always 1 over. So you find your determinant, like you know how to do, and then you start with 1 over. Then you're going to take that times a new matrix. Now the new matrix that you build is real simple, but you got to kind of pay attention. Go back to the original one. These two numbers, remember when you did your determinant, the first two you multiplied together? Those two numbers switch places. So in other words, you're going to put the 5 here and the 1 here. You flip-flop them. Those two numbers you flip-flop. The other two numbers, you leave them where they are, but you change their signs. So instead of being a negative 1, this will be a positive, and instead of being a positive 2, this will be a negative. So you put 1, negative 2. So once again, this is a two-step process. The first step is find the determinant like you know how to do. 1 over. The second step is making this new matrix. And to make the new matrix, we simply switch these two, flip-flop these two, and change the signs on those two. So our inverse is 5/7, we're multiplying, negative 2/7, 1/7, and 1/7. Ryan?
You only change the sign if it's a negative or a negative?
No. This one became positive, and this one became negative. We change both of their signs, whatever they are. So if they're positive, they become negative. If they're negative, they become positive for these two.
What about the other two?
No, the other two you just flip-flop.
If one of them was negative, what did you do?
Yep, it stays negative. You don't, no. These two flip-flop, no changing. So whatever they are, they stay. These two change, okay? So this would be my final answer. I take the 1/7 times each of those new numbers I have, and that's my final answer. That's not too bad. Let's look at B.
So you just leave it like that? And then
Yep, this is your answer. That is your final answer right there, that matrix. All right, now we're doing B. Okay, so what's step one? Find the determinant. And that's what we did on our quiz. So we're gonna take 1 times 4, 0 times -3, and add them first. Add them? No way. We're going to subtract them, right? And what do we get? 4. So how does that show up? Do we write 4? No, we write 1/4. Now, we make a new matrix. And how do we make that new matrix? We take these two numbers, and so we put the 4 here and the 1 here. You with me? Now what happens to these two? They stay where they are, but their signs change. Now 0 is 0. And the -3 becomes a +3. Mr. Devine, you paying attention back there? You wouldn't lie to a sick woman now, would you? So the inverse is what? Take 1/4 times each of those. What's 1/4 times 4? That's just going to be a 1. We're going to have a 3/4 and a 0 and a 1/4. Everybody feeling okay about that? Do you think you're ready to try C on your own? I will do it on the board, but I'm not going to talk. You do it and see what you can come up with for C. Feel free to ask your neighbor if you've forgotten a step. Jamal!
I'm done.
Okay, well let them get done.
Where did she get the 110? That's a determinant.
Okay, now this one involves something we didn't have before. Did you notice that you could reduce some fractions here? This is what I got. Didn't they match that?
Yeah, right. And we're finding the inverse.
Don't want to make a careless mistake. Everybody good?
Whatever you get.
Now, there is one more example on the sheet I want you to look at. So look at the last one, because something happens here we have to talk about. So let's look at that last example. All right, let's start it. So let's find the determinant. Go ahead, Lauren, you doing okay? Yeah. Okay. Find your determinant. One more example there. What happens? Okay, the determinant is 0. Did everybody get a determinant of 0? All right, now let's talk about that. The answer to this question is there is no inverse. Can you tell me why that is? The determinant came out to be 0, Jamal.
The inverse of 0 is 0.
What do I do with that determinant? I put 1 over it. Am I allowed to have 1 over 0? No. When your determinant works out to be 0, you're done. You simply say, there is no inverse. Moses, if the determinant is 0, there is no inverse. Are you doing a little origami there, or what are you doing there, bud?
This is what I got notes right here.
Okay. Okay.
No.
When the determinant is 0, there is no inverse. Everybody got it? Okay. We need to do 2 more things, and then we'll be done. First of all, notice the next set of notes. What does it say? Oh, let's stop right there. Use your calculator. Now, wait a minute. I'm not talking about the $5.95 Walmart calculator. Those are fine, but they're not going to do this. You need your graphing calculator tomorrow. If you still, in February, do not have a graphing calculator, then you need to find a friend, rent one from the library, or be prepared to pay 50 cents tomorrow, because that's tomorrow's lesson, totally on the calculator. Got it? So you're going to be prepared for that. Okay, the second thing is, I want you to turn the page, Cramer's rule, very next page. We did some of these yesterday, remember? I want to do one more today to make sure we remember what we learned yesterday. I don't know, whatever I had on there. Okay.
Miss Ford.
Yes.
Don't we have a paper due this class?
You do. Your paper is due, it's a Wednesday, I think it's the 23rd. 23rd of March.
February?
No, March. Today is the 23rd of February. Is today the 22nd? I thought it was the 23rd.
I was like, wait, what? Yeah, no, it's Miss Ford. It's online, right?
Actually, it's not yet, but I will try to get it there. But I've already told you. That one day I went through and told you what
I remember. Yeah, I was just asking. I didn't know it.
Okay, everybody. One Cramer's rule problem. One Cramer's rule problem. Let's do, we did A and B already, right? Yeah. So we're going to do C. And then I have one more thing I need to do with you. So let's try to hang tough, get this done. We'll be ready to do the next thing. All right. Oh boy, go back in your memory to yesterday. Cramer's rule. Okay, step 1. make a determinant of the coefficients. So when we say coefficients, we mean the x numbers and the y numbers. See how they're nicely lined up? Just like I was going to do elimination. I have them nicely lined up, and I make a determinant out of those numbers, and then I evaluate it. All right, you're really good at these now. So what's the value of that determinant? 10. Perfect. You're really good at that. Now, what do I do with the 10? It's an important part of the problem now. What is it?
You put it under the...
My job is to figure out x and y. I am looking for an answer to this system, an x and a y. For both of them, they will be over 10. Over that number. Now, that means I have to find numerators. Does anybody remember from yesterday how to find the numerators? Julian? We'll call these the answers or whatever, the constants over here. They get cut out and then glued either here or here, depending on whether we're solving for x or y. So if I'm doing x, these get cut out and glued here. So the determinant would be 9, 2, negative 4, 2. If I'm solving for x, these get glued here. If I'm solving for y, these get glued here. Does that sound familiar from yesterday? Now, you evaluate these. All right, so here we go. What will the value of that determinant be?
That's the determinant.
Because that's the determinant, so you always put the determinant.
What do we get for that numerator? You get 26 over 10.
Yeah, for the x, you have to replace the x.
Right.
This is 18 and negative 8, but they're being subtracted, so they get added.
What's the determinant for this one time?
And that reduces to 13 over 5. So that's your x. That goes right here. And then what about this one? Negative 3, but that's still over 10. That does not reduce, so we'll just write negative 3 tenths. Now, does anybody have a question about this Cramer's rule deal? Remember it from yesterday? All right, then the last thing I want to do before I let you rest is this. Chocolate protein plus, so I like
Shoot.
Like, what's your what? You have the rest of the word? What's that? You have a big service going on?
No, not quite. Well, no, I'm not going to any of the ones that have.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at what we've got here. We actually practiced some of this yesterday, but I really want to make sure we get this hit hard because we're going to have a quiz over it tomorrow. All right, not the determinants, not the inverses, not the Cramer's rule, not all the fancy stuff, the very, very basic things. Okay? So let's start with part 2, and let's go through these. We hope, I think we know what we're supposed to do. A plus B. The first thing you need to figure out is, can I even add them? Yes. And the answer is yes. And the reason that you can add them is why? They're both the same dimensions. So when you add them, you're going to add the two numbers in that spot. So that would be a 0. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
And you're going to add the two numbers in that spot, and that would be a 2. The 2 in this spot would be a 8. And the 2 in that spot would be a 10. Are we good? No question about the adding. All right, B. What are we doing here? 2C. What are we doing? We're taking everything in matrix C and timesing it by 2. So -2, 2 and 4, 6, 10, and 8. Are we clear on that? Absolutely no issue from anyone. Is that correct? All right, C. Can't do it. Don't even try. You can't. Why can't you? Because the dimensions don't match. Boys and girls, if the dimensions don't match, you can't add. So you either write this in the answer blank, or you write can't do, or you write silly Mrs. Ford, this problem's impossible. But somehow you indicate that it can't be done. All right?
So is that a 3 by 2 or 2 by 3?
That is a 2 by 3, 2 rows. Rows are like bleachers, PJ. Go across. 2 rows, 3 columns. All right, turn it over. Same matrices, different questions. What is question D asking you for? In matrix A, look at the second row, first column. In matrix A, second row, first column. What entry is right there in matrix A? Is a 3. The answer to D is 3. We are in the second row, first column. That's this number right here. Everybody good with that? 2, 1. Second row, first column. E. What are the dimensions of matrix C? How many rows? 2. How many columns? 3. It is a 2 by 3. That's how you write that. 2 by 3. If you write 3 by 2 at home, it's 2 by 3. What is F asking me to do? Multiply. Now the first thing you need to do, boys and girls, is figure out if it's doable. What are the dimensions of this matrix? 2 by 2. How about this one? 2 by 2. In order to multiply, those match. They do. This tells me that my answer will have 2 rows and 2 columns. Right? So now I'm going to start filling in those numbers. Now, I'll just start with this one. This is in which row? First row, first column. So I'm going to multiply the numbers in the first row, which are 1 and 2, times the numbers in the first column, which are -1 and 5. So 1 times -1, 2 times 5. First number times first number, second number times second number. I add them up and I get a 9. Did you get a 9? 1 times -1 is -1. 2 times 5 is 10. -1 plus 10 is 9. Now what about this number? How am I going to figure him out? He's in the first row, but the second column. So now I'm going to take the numbers in the first row and multiply them by the numbers in the second column. So I'm going to take 1 times 0 and 2 times 4. One times 0, 2 times 4. What is that? 8. All right, how about this guy? He's in which row? Second row, first column. So I'm going to multiply the numbers in the second row, which are 3 and 6, times the numbers in the first column, which are -1 and 5. So 3 times -1, 6 times 5. That gives me a 27. Right? -3 and 30. First times first, second times second. And then finally, let's see if we can get this last one. That's the second row, second column. So I'm going to take the numbers in the second row, which are 3 and 6, times the numbers in the second column, which is 0 and 4. That gives me, indeed, like Savannah said, a 24. You have to be organized when you do matrix multiplication. Zach Bond, I hope you're paying attention, buddy. All right, next, another multiplication. C times A. All right, before we jump in and start doing it, what do? Check to see if I can. So what are my dimensions? 2 by 3. Oh, trouble in River City. Actually, you're probably happy because that means you just say no answer and you move on to the next problem.
So you always write the bigger one first?
No, you always write them in whatever order they come in the problem.
Oh.
So if it says C times A, I write C times A. All right, and now I'm going to do A minus 2B. All right, everybody understand this is A minus 2B? Now you need to be careful here. Let's just do 2B. Forget it's a subtraction. Let's just figure out what 2B is. What would 2B be? -2, 0, 10, 8. Now I am subtracting that from A. So this is 2B, right here. This is 2B. I'm going to subtract that from A. Right? Now, here we go. They're the same size, so I'm going to do it. 1 minus negative 2. What's 1 minus negative 2? 3. 2 minus 0. 3 minus 10. And 6 minus 8. There's your answer. The only problem on this quiz we didn't do was number 1. You now have 3 options on how to solve that. What are our options? Elimination, substitution, and Cramer's rule. Right? So you pick it. It doesn't matter to me how you do it. All right, your homework tonight.
On any level.
I've assigned a couple of problems in the book, and then I've asked you to finish the worksheet that you started last night. There's a few problems left, your English problems. So your homework is to finish that sheet from last night, and there's a couple problems in the book I want you to do, okay? It's in Schoology, you can do it.